And I'd like to thank Marilyn and Caroline and Nick, who have for many years provided opportunities for community members such as myself. And it's great. So I'll get on and read this. Common ground, local architecture, communities, consent, and the concrete canyons. When members of our local community in South London gather together, we talk about many things: our families, health, work, the increasing cost of living, the past, online shenanigans, things we find amusing, American politics, violence in Ukraine, Gaza, and the Middle East, things we have in common and things we do not. The recent rapid changes to our physical environment are a current hot topic amongst local residents. Changes that are happening without our consent. And we ask, who is it that gives consent to so many irresponsible, inappropriate and dangerous building projects? Old and young, rich and poor, have become increasingly aware that during the recent years of the government's austerity policies, publicly owned land, whether it's a youth centre, a library, an adventure playground, or an entire council housing estate, is being sold off to unaccountable private developers by our local councils. The council justify this by saying that because of the government reductions in spending, council property built and paid for by tax contributions of local people over the decades must be sold to make up the shortfall in the budget. At the same time as we're told about austerity being the reason for this enormous sell-off of publicly owned assets and amenities, we have seen locally a massive amount of private development on these sites, with several tall residential towers being built in Elephant and Castle. Oh yeah. There they are. And there's more to come. In Elephant and Castle, along with an entire high-rise estate of apartments for private rent, built on what was previously a publicly owned council estate. It looks like the opposite of austerity. The cheapest flat in this new development at Elephant and Castle is over £400,000. And these small one-bedroom properties are not advertised locally, but globally, where they are bought by foreign investors and landlords. The property developers initially promised the council that they will build a certain proportion of homes for families and social housing. But as the developments progress, the developers back out of these promises, and the council, it seems, are powerless to resist. Amongst these new high-rise concrete canyons are some marginal areas of greenery and community space, and thankfully, some business and community groups in Walworth, with some small financial help from Suffolk Council, have developed the Urban Elephant Festival, which now happens annually and invites local community groups to get together each summer and have a festival of arts, music and culture. There is also a new library and heritage centre on the ground floor of one of the apartment blocks, and some new shops in the development, all well used by the local population. It's also worth noting that in a recent report, due to the large percentage of green space in this city, London is technically an urban forest. But for how much longer? One of the first buildings to open during this period of regeneration was the Strata Tower SE1. The architects designed this 43-storey tower with 3 enormous turbines at the top. Visually striking and futuristic, these turbines were supposed to provide a proportion of electricity for the building, When they were turned on, however, the noise and vibration they created was so disturbing and disruptive that it caused uproar in the local community. The turbines were switched off and have never been used since. Why did the creators of this building not know that this would happen? There was no inquiry, no architects or companies were publicly rebuked. You can see that tower right there. After new exterior cladding and window frames were fitted to the council block Lacanal House in Camberwell, there was a fire in 2009, which caused the cladding to burn and the PVC window frames to melt, spreading the fire and causing the deaths of 6 residents, making hundreds of residents homeless. There was an inquiry, but no action, no prosecutions. Evening Grace Academy, a much-needed new school here in Brixton, was designed by Zaza Hadid Architects. Opened in 2011, the building won the British Sterling Prize. But the school was built directly adjacent to the council refuse yard, where the constant noise of bin lorries and the constant smell of refuse, particularly in summer, caused much dismay and disgust to students and staff and local residents. In all the plaudits and glowing literature, this was never mentioned. The architects and authorities moved on. Nobody was disciplined or gave a care for the building's users. During the massive property development of Vauxhall in 2013, a helicopter on its way to nearby Battersea heliport crashed into the under construction 52-storey number 1 St George's Wharf. This building did not have warning lights on the structure. The helicopter plummeted to the ground, causing the deaths of the pilot and a member of the public on his way to work, along with 12 injuries and considerable chaos and destruction to the local area. Nobody was prosecuted or sanctioned. Also in 2013, the 37-storey skyscraper at 20 Fenchurch Street, dubbed the walkie-talkie because of its sky-stealing shape. There it is. Not a thing of beauty. Because of its sky-stealing shape, caused considerable damage to vehicles due to sunlight reflecting from its curved surface into the street below. The constructors paid for repairs to the damage, but there was no further penalty. And in 2017, there was a small fire in a flat in 24-storey Grenfell Tower in Kensington and Chelsea. Due to the recently installed exterior cladding made of flammable material, the fire spread around the entire exterior of the building within 2 hours. 72 people died in the fire, and hundreds lost their homes. An inquiry found that there had been systematic government failures and dishonest companies, including architects, builders and planners, who knew that these materials were flammable and dangerous, but they went ahead and installed them anyway, despite the concerns of residents. 8 years later, nobody has been prosecuted, fined or brought to justice in any way. When we, as local residents and members of our local communities, witness this behaviour by architects, planners, the law and our council representatives, it's easy to understand why we have lost trust in these institutions and their supposed function, which is to improve our lives, our environment and our well-being. How is consent given for some of these plans? And why do we pay our tax or vote in elections? When the common ground between us shifts, people are left feeling confused about many things. We wonder why, if the politicians are in Parliament to represent us, do they do the opposite of what we want? Are they representing us, or the corporations who are being allowed to buy so much public land from underfunded councils, then spend billions erecting concrete canyons for foreign investors to buy on global markets, while local people are struggling to find housing and pay the ever-increasing cost of living, and suffering the shameful results of underfunding and austerity in our communities? We are doubting what we thought was our common ground in relation to our expectation that our taxes will provide an improving environment into the future. We are doubting that our elected representatives actually have common ground with us at all.